All righty. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our November Pláticas. This is an event that the Cabrillo 2+2 CSUMB program hosts once a month. And what we like to do is talk about transfer pathways from Cabrillo to CSUMB, and each month we highlight a different program. So this month we are talking about communication studies to the HCOM program at CSUMB. My name is Ann Endres. I'm the Title V director at Cabrillo College. We have a collaborative grant between Cabrillo and CSUMB. We're both Hispanic serving institutions. And so this grant is focused on increasing transfer between Cabrillo and CSUMB. So tonight, like I said, we're going to be looking at the communication studies transfer pathway. I'm doing just a little bit of a welcome and an introduction. And while I'm doing my little short welcome piece, it would be great if folks could introduce themselves in the chat. Just say your name and your role and maybe something that you're interested in learning about tonight. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about our Cabrillo 2+2 CSUMB program, because that's a new program that we started last year, and it's a project of our Title V grant. Then we're going to hear from Kendall Suter, our Communication Studies Program faculty member who's with us today. She's going to tell us a little bit about the Cabrillo program. And then we'll hear about the CSUMB HCOM program. That's a typo on my screen. And then we're going to hear from some CSUMB alumni about how the program, impacted them and their future career opportunities. And then our career speaker, also a CSUMB alumni and Cabrillo alumni, is Carla Ramirez. She's our GANAS program specialist. And then we'll have at the end just really open time for Q&A and time for question and answer really throughout the evening. So our Cabrillo 2+2 program is a program that's all about supporting students to spend 2 years at Cabrillo and then 2 years at CSUMB to obtain your bachelor's degree in 4 years. And really just providing students with support every step of the way to do that. We really focus on building community, having lots of one-on-one advising for our students and transfer guidance, and we connect our students to CSUMB really on day one, so that if students are part of our program and they're freshmen starting at Cabrillo, at their orientation, they're also meeting CSUMB staff and hearing about CSUMB so that they're getting started with their college experience at Cabrillo as being a future CSUMB student. And we connect you to lots of resources. So navigating financial aid, making sure that you have laptops, tutoring, and all those different elements. So I think that's my last slide, actually, and I am going to stop sharing and go ahead and introduce Kendall Suter to talk about the Cabrillo Communication Studies program.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see all of you, especially some graduates and alumni. And I'm really excited to hear about what you've been up to since you've graduated. I think that's like one of the most exciting parts of this job. So I'm here to represent the Cabrillo College Communication Studies Department, and we are a diverse department in communication studies. We try to integrate most of the different styles and foci of communication studies. We have a health communication class. We have our COM 10, which gives you like an overview of all of the different types of communication that you could pursue. We have interpersonal COM, we have speech, group discussion, and lots of other exciting courses. We also offer a communication studies award. So students who participate in at least 9 units of courses with a B or better can earn a communication studies Studies Award, and that applies to even our engineering communication students as well, to try to bring in lots of disciplines and get lots of feedback. And we also have a certificate program where if you complete 16 units, then you can earn a certificate that actually goes on your degree and transfers with you. And we are very focused on trying to prepare students for life after Cabrillo, whether that means transferring, going into the workforce, or just using these skills in life. And that is definitely our goal, trying to have a wide variety of classes so that we can accommodate the diverse field of communication studies. Our department has 3 people who used to be students at Cabrillo College who came back to teach as communication studies faculty as well, which is pretty exciting. And I know at least 2 of us were transfer students and first generation students too. So that's also pretty exciting to have that in common with maybe some of the people listening tonight too. And that experience definitely informs some ways that we can try to do things better and better serve our students, but we're always eager to hear more and to get more feedback and hear how you're using your degrees and what your transfer experience was like, so we can try to make it even better. Is there anything else you think I should mention, Anne?
I think that sounds good. Carla, what do you think? You were a communication studies major at Cabrillo. Anything that should be added about that description of our program?
No, I mean, for me, the only thing is I wish I would have known about the award like before, like I was graduating.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And we're trying to build it into more of our syllabi and all of that stuff too. But it's exciting. You know, and we changed it recently from 10 units to 9 to make it even more attainable, so that students who just complete 3 classes can earn that award now too, which is awesome. And we definitely rope in some people as comm minors, and we even convert some people to comm majors through that too. So it's really exciting.
Great. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the CSUMB HCOM program to hear a little bit more about that program.
So hi, everyone. My name is Gladys Cavadas, and I am the academic advisor for the Humanities and Communication majors on campus. So welcome, and you're going to be seeing me if you decide to attend CSUMB. And I'm here to help you throughout your entire 2 or 3 years. As long as it takes you to graduate, I'm here for you. I've been working at CSUMB for over 13 years, and I was also a Humanities and Communication major. My concentration was in Chicano Latino studies. That was a concentration at that time. We have different concentrations now, but we will definitely go over some of those when you talk to me and if you want to discuss those further. But the ones that are linked, well, let me just talk a little bit about the major. So the major is Humanities and Communication integrated together. So it's an interdisciplinary program where you learn written communication, right? Verbal communication, critical thinking skills, ethical reasoning, and socially just. You're going to actually have a lot of courses that also link up with social justice, which is a really great component of our program. And also to be able to make up, inclusive decision making within our program. So that those are some of the skills that you gain from our program. The concentrations that are linked to the AAT degree in communication. So once you transfer over, there are 3 concentrations. Those are communication studies, journalism and media studies, and philosophy and applied ethics.
And Gladys, do you just want to mention the other concentrations? Because although students are in communication studies, I think sometimes when students, they see, oh, they could do all these other things, sometimes they change, they stay within HCOM, but they change. So maybe you can just mention what the other concentrations are.
Yeah, definitely. So just because you have a specific AAT in a certain area, it doesn't mean that you have to concentrate in those areas. It just means that if you transfer, then you are guaranteed to graduate within the 60 unit range, right? As far as units. Now, if you decide to do something else, to concentrate in something else, that's okay. And those concentrations, so those are the other concentrations are creative writing and social action, English studies, English subject matter preparation, and that's for students that want to become English teachers. And then, you know, after that, go on and either do their master's or the credential program as well. So, and it has a CSET built in there as well, so you don't have to take the English CSET. We also have ethnic and gender studies, historical studies, legal studies, and yeah, and the other three that I mentioned before that are linked to the AAT degree.
I have a question for you, Gladys. If some of our, you know, our students are thinking about transferring to CSUMB, like what do you think are some of the highlights of the HCOM program for our communication studies students?
I think one of the biggest highlights is that faculty really care. Mm-hmm. And they really, if anything is going on and you express whatever's going on or you need help with anything, they are super supportive. And I think that makes the biggest difference, mm-hmm. especially when you're having a difficult time with everything that's been going on. They are very supportive. And then also learning from them, depending on what you want to do, right? If you have a specific concentration, you're also going to have a faculty member that is going to be your mentor, that is specifically teaching those courses within that concentration, so you get to know them a little bit more. So if you ever need letters of recommendation, right, for graduate school, you're going to have those relationships with your professors that you've built through, you know, in your 2 or 3 years that you're at CSUMB. Also, aside from that, I think CSUMB is a small campus, right, in comparison to others. So the fact that you have small classrooms and you get to interact with your classmates and the professor and have in-group discussions and then also in-class discussions instead of just being in a lecture with like 300 people. Mm-hmm.
And I think Carla went through almost most of your time was during COVID, or 3 of your 4 semesters were during COVID. But HCOM has returned to a lot of in-person classes, but with some online options for going forward, just not in everything, but so the students who really need the flexibility still have a little bit of flexibility in their schedule. Okay. So I thought, are there, probably nobody has any questions for Gladys, but if you have questions, feel free to just pop questions in the chat as we go. So Carla, since you're our most recent graduate and you were also a transfer peer mentor, do you want to tell us a little bit about, like, are there things that you wish somebody had told you before you transferred, or that you wish you'd known about before you transferred, or warnings or deadlines or something you didn't know about and what students should know?
Yeah, so one was the different concentrations. That was like super confusing for me. And I remember like going to Gladys in like July, like before I was starting, and I was like, okay, well, I'm interested in this and I'm interested in that. And I had settled on, I was actually doing journalism and media studies. And then I took that one class and I was like, I went to her like more than halfway through the semester. I'm like, yeah, no, I think I'm sticking with communications. And also a huge thing was the language. So, you know, at Cabrillo or at community college, they're counselors. But then once you're at the university, it's an advisor. So I would always hear like advisor and I'm like, what is this? So that was something that I wish I knew. Obviously, like I was always just asking around, and I was able to even see her before the semester began because she's very popular. And yeah, like that was probably like the huge thing for me, was like the language and just not knowing certain things. And then also being very confused about the concentrations and how many there was for HCOM, because there's so many. And I wish I knew it before I transferred, just so I could have taken classes at Cabrillo in order for me to like be able to do something else. Not that I regret doing communications, but there were other things I was interested in as well.
And so Carla, in your role as a transfer, how did you find out about the Transfer Success Center? And in your role as a Transfer Success peer mentor, what are the most common challenges or questions that you saw that came up?
So I was actually working for the Undocu Success Center my first year at CSUMB, and I remember Jacinto had asked us to go do a panel in the transfer center. And I remember him telling me like, oh, you're a transfer student, come see me. And I was like, yeah, sure. But since I was working at the end, with Undocu, like I was in the student resources building, like everyone was there. So I never really needed like that extra support because I could go to TRIO, I could go to EOP, I could go to anyone there. And then it was after COVID hit, I kind of, I wasn't sure if I would be able to like still work there. Everything was up in the air as far as student workers. And I remember receiving an email that the transfer center was hiring. And I'm like, oh, wait, we have this really cool center. I'm like, I'm a transfer student, I should apply. And yeah, I ended up working for him. And the question I feel like we would get the most all the time was about OASIS. Everyone always was asking about OASIS. How do you navigate OASIS? What is this? Another thing was like, how do I even get to my classes? How do I accept my financial aid? But I feel like the main thing was OASIS.
And OASIS is the system that we use for registration, and it doesn't look anything like the system that you use at a community college. And so we do have the Transfer Student Success Center, which has the drop-in peer mentor support for registration and things like that every afternoon. So I can put that in the chat too.
I see a question here from Mohammed. I think he's one of the students right now at Cabrillo, wondering about if they teach communication and advertising.
Is that for Cabrillo College or for CSUMB? Do we think?
Let's take it maybe both ways. Kendall, do we do that at Cabrillo? And then maybe we'll talk about the CSUMB program.
Yeah, sure. So we have a class, COM 4, and it's our argumentation and persuasion class. So we address some of like the persuasion that goes into advertising in that class. And in our COM 10 course, which is like communication theory, essentially communication process, we address a little bit about media communication, mediated communication, and we talk a little bit about the channels that those take. So we address it a little bit. We also do have, like I know when I was a student at Cabrillo, I took a lot of the classes through the journalism department though too, and that those helped me a lot as I transferred as well. So like for instance, if you were looking at the HCOM and looking at that journalism venue, the communication studies and journalism classes I think would work together best to support you in pursuing that. But we have a few classes that address it, but no courses specifically on that at Cabrillo. But I don't know about CSUMB. I'm excited to hear.
Actually, it kind of works the same way. We have some things that do touch on media. So we have some classes like, for example, social impact of mass media, deliberation and advocacy, which is similar to what you were mentioning, Kendall. And then also we have media ethics, ethics and communication. So
there's like an intro to public relations class too.
We have the intro to public relations class. And the only thing is that there is no specific, like as far as in our department, we don't have a specific advertising communication class. However, you can minor in business if you would like. And the business department does have marketing courses that you would be able to take if you would want to go that route.
And we do have students that just want to take the one marketing class and not deal with the whole minor, but they want to get that marketing experience. So they just take that one class. That's okay, because that class has no prerequisites, which is fortunate.
Yep. I have some students that just want to take it and they end up taking it for elective credits.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mohammed, did that answer your question? No.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Keep the questions coming. We like those.
Okay, thanks.
So for, I think Mandy and Mohammed are the two students, and I don't know if you guys were transferring, do you know what semester you would be transferring? Because like, or would you be transferring for the fall?
It's not planned to be transferred now because we just came in Cabrillo like 4 months ago.
Okay.
We are international student. We from France.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
that's why I'm struggling a little bit to speak English, but
your English is very good,
Mhm.
very good.
and yeah, so we just looking for UCSB if they have good communication major. So we just taking some
Looking
advice.
around. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
okay. So,
Hi, my name is Mandy, and I'll be transferring spring of 2023. I'm a new 2+2 CSUMB student. Yeah.
Great.
and are you, so but you're at Cabrillo, so you're first year at Cabrillo?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And I see we were also just joined by Selena Rigosa, who is a current transfer student success peer mentor. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Selena? Or did she just disappear?
Must have been funny internet.
She's like, oh no, okay, fine. She's like, no, I don't want to talk. Lamberto, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell a little bit about your background, what you did after you graduated, and the different places you worked, and how you took that pathway. I mean, Carla's the career speaker, but since we're doing an alumni instead of a student panel, I thought you could give maybe a little 5-minute overview.
Sure, we get a little informal. So my name is Lamberto, and I'm an advising generalist at CSUMB. So my role is mainly to work with students who, quote unquote, were classified as non-traditional. So adult students, returning students, student parents, and then just being accessible to students in that capacity, whether it might be after hours or on weekends. So that's one of my being able to serve the non-traditional student status. But in terms of my own experience, I'm from the community. I grew up in South Monterey County. I came straight to CSUMB after high school. I majored in HCOM, and to be completely honest with you all, I had no idea what HCOM was until I had a professor who said, like, hey, you should consider this major as something that you can perhaps just expand your knowledge on. So I ended up becoming a HCOM major, and my concentration back then, and I don't know if it's still in place, but it was comparative American studies. So I guess for me, what I take away from my experience as an undergrad is not so much, well, definitely finding ways to communicate, but more so listen. And I think that's the major knowledge that I took being an HCOM major. Understand that it goes both ways, right? As much as you try to communicate and as much as you're trying to express what it is that you need to say, it's also sort of like taking a pause and hearing and understanding and listening, and then taking it from there, like being both ways type of communication when you're interacting with people, whether it might be in a help capacity, in advising capacity, in a work capacity. So that was like my major takeaway from CSUMB as a student.
Can I share one thing that that you maybe think. I just wanted to share, since we have some Cabrillo students on here, we have a 1-unit listening course that is usually run for either 3 weeks or 6 weeks. And it's a really fun class. I mean, obviously I think it's fun. I'm a teacher, but like it's a really fun class. And we often think about it as like an unlearning class where you actually find out that you probably aren't a great listener, but then you get some tools to try to do it better, because a lot of us just assume that we're all good listeners. And I love that you highlighted that in the things that you took away from the major. And so I just wanted to share that class for the Cabrillo College communication people listening. Thank you.
And Lamberto, you ended up working for CSUMB, EOP, and then also with Gear Up. And what kind of led you in those directions?
So after I finished CSUMB, I continued with my education. I went out of state for my master's, but I've always been passionate about education in general, right? So one of my goals as a student back in the day was like, I always wanted to become a teacher, but then that did not work out for whatever reason. So I ended up graduating, being out of state. I came back, and then I started working at CSUMB with the different support programs on campus. I took a lot from that, and then I decided to take a break and pursue K through 12 and wanting to understand the educational system for students and those who were actually making it to a four-year institution or decided to go to a community college first and then transfer out. And then I came back to CSUB. So I think I appreciate the background in terms of human communications, in the sense that it's not guiding you in a specific job title, but it's really just prepping you to be able to navigate and interact with people based on their needs and just having that awareness, whether you're talking to high school students, to high school student parents, college students. So it's like just being aware in terms of like knowing who your audience is, so that you could communicate with them in a way that they actually understand and that they feel comfortable interact with you. Because oftentimes it's like if you're using language that is beyond their understanding, then it really doesn't make any sense. So the point being like just being aware of your audience in order to actually make an impact and get your communication across.
Okay. Thanks, Lamberto.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a peer mentor who keeps trying to get on, and she's an HCOM major too, I think, but she hasn't been able to get on, or she gets on for 5 seconds and gets off. So
I think we can
probably move on to the Carla.
Yeah, one thing I was just gonna say, hearing Lamberto speak about, like the skill set that you get from a communication studies or HCOM degree. It's interesting because where I went to my undergrad, which was UC Santa Cruz, they didn't actually have a communication program or communication studies. And when I came to Cabrillo as a faculty to teach, I thought that was so amazing. Like a communication studies program, I was like, oh, I wish that was available to me when I was an undergrad, because I feel an affinity to that, to those classes, to the curriculum, and especially the skill set, because I feel like it's a professional skill set that will assist you in any job that you are in. And it's a really, really critical and important skill set that actually a lot of people don't have. So it is true that I don't feel like there's one job that you go into, one career that you go into with this kind of degree, but it aids you in many different careers. So I'm going to turn the stage over now to Carla Ramirez, who is our career speaker. And Carla, as we've mentioned before, She was a Cabrillo student who transferred to CSUMB in both of these programs, in communication studies and then HCOM. And she's going to tell us a little bit how she got onto that pathway, her academic trajectory, and then a little bit about her job now. She is a program specialist at Cabrillo. We're very, very lucky to have her with us, with a new program called the Ganas program. She'll talk about that a little bit as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and welcome Carla and your story.
So before Carla starts, can I just say that she's still also doing my job, because she's obviously been texting other peer mentors, and she got Selena to come on, couldn't get on. Now she's got Stephanie here. So I thank you, Carla. And Stephanie, if you want to introduce yourself, and sorry, since you're here, that would be great if you can introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a current peer mentor at the Transfer Student Success Center. I'm graduating this semester, which is very bittersweet. It's exciting, but I'm like, but it's okay. And my major is liberal studies, so I want to be a teacher in the very near future. So I'll be entering the credential program, hopefully in the summer. So that's me.
Thank you, Stephanie. Over to you, Carla.
Okay, hi everyone. Again, my name is Carla. I am a Cabrillo alumni. So I started at Cabrillo in 2016 as a music major because I've always loved music and I kind of wanted to go into the radio during that time. I quickly realized, after being there for a year, I was like, I kind of want to get a degree because at that point I had actually attended MPC and West LA College. So I had been doing school for a while. I took a break. So I was just, figuring it out. And then I went to Michelle, who is a Puente counselor at Cabrillo. And I actually had interviewed her for a journalism class and she ended up meeting with me, and we spoke for like an hour, and she's like, CSUMB has this great program called HCOM. You should look into it. You can also transfer. And at that point I was like, I just want a degree. I'm like, I just want to finish. A lot of my friends had already graduated from university at that point. So I was in that, like comparing myself a lot to the people in my life. So then I switched to communications and I loved it. The same as Lamberto was saying, it's a lot of like listening, especially while I was at Cabrillo. I felt like a lot of it was just, I would always study the people in my life. Like, how do you communicate? Okay, this is how I can communicate with you. I would do that a lot. And I'm like, oh, wow, I really enjoy this. And I saw myself doing better in school as well, because just a little fun fact, when I left MPC, I left with a 1.3 cumulative and 3 academic dismissals. So I left, really, really bad. So at this point, I started seeing myself progress, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not a bad student. I just was taking courses I wasn't interested in. And that made me more motivated to just continue. And after she told me about HCOM, I was like, you know what? I think I can transfer, I think I can do this. I only applied to CSUMB because I wasn't thinking about any other school. I was like, I'm just going to go there. And, I got in, and once I finally finished at Cabrillo, I think that graduation, also because I actually had a ceremony, it felt so much more like, wow, I really like did this milestone, because it took me so long to get my associates. And then once I was at CSUMB, pretty much the whole time, even up until now, like it just felt like it wasn't real. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. Oh my gosh, I'm here. Oh, I finished. Like, I still haven't even put my degree, like my diploma up on the wall because it still doesn't feel real sometimes. And yeah, like I do like to tell people my story because it took me 9 years to get my degree. And it's like, I took a break. I went to 4 different schools. And I still continued. And for me, I was always like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to finish. For me, I felt like a failure most of the time. And then it's like, oh no, now when I look back, I'm like, I continued, like I never gave up. I kept trying and trying, and I proved to myself that I could do it in the end. So it's just very like full circle for me too, especially like now working at Cabrillo, because for me, that's where I felt like I found community finally. I had tried 2 other schools and they just weren't for me. And then I go to Cabrillo and I'm actually seeing myself participating. I started working on campus. So while I was there, I worked for the Dream Resource Center, I worked for outreach and recruitment and for the extension program. So I was constantly involved. And then once I was going to CSUMB, I'm like, I need to do this because that's how I feel like I can be successful as well. And so I am very grateful that I at least spent one semester and a half in person, because I was so involved while I was there. I helped plan the first generation celebration in 2019, which I was so happy about. I was able to host an event related to Central American Studies, which I'm Central American, so that was something very important for me to do. And I literally hosted that 2 days before we shut down. Yeah. So it was, and I was actually supposed to do a workshop for the Docu Success Conference that year, but we had to, cancel it because of COVID. But I just felt like me working on campus helped me so much at both schools because I got so involved, and I continued those relationships that I built with people. Now like my old boss from the Dream Resource Center, like we work in the same office. I see Adela every Tuesday and she's just like, oh my gosh, you're here. And it's really cool. But yeah, that's just like a very like summarized version of my story. And I don't know if there's anything else like you would want me to mention.
Carla, tell us a little bit about the Ganas program and how you've been using your HCOM skills in real life.
Yeah, so shout out to Anne for contacting me in regards to the Ganas program. So we are a re-entry program for students who dropped during the pandemic. Unfortunately, it was a very difficult time for everyone, and just being online. I know even for myself, when everything was happening, I was like, I can't do online. Like, I have never been successful in an online class. But obviously it was different because we were all going through it at the same time. So, and that's one thing I loved about my professors. Like, I always say this, I'm like, HCOM professors, sorry, Steph, they're the best. They're amazing. They're super understanding. When everything was going on, like sometimes I would have to miss class, and that was, I think, the first time where I had professors email me like, are you okay? Instead of like them just letting you pass by and not even pay attention to you. And also how small the classes were. I just really loved that because I really felt like I was making connections. And so, yeah, back to the program. That is kind of like what I want to build like with the program. I was presented this program. I was on board from the beginning because I was like, this is where I found community. And I know that this is something that students really need. They need that support, especially right now as we're transitioning back to, we're like half in person, half online. And, I have met a lot of students that they can really relate to me as well. Like, we talk and they're just like, oh, wow, like you understand, what I'm going through. And we, as of right now, we have 60 students. And we're already getting students for the spring. We have almost 30 for spring already. So it's really crazy. We've been recruiting, since the summer. Literally, I graduated, and I think like a month later, I started on this program. So it's, again, everything's just gone so quickly. To this day, sometimes I'm like, it feels like it's my first month. working here. And as far as how I've been using the degree, so with communications, you know, it's a lot of like listening and seeing how people communicate, understanding them. And then with HCOM, it was more like social justice and, you know, service, like we had to do service learning. And so I feel like that has really helped me a lot. One, presenting, I have to present, I do workshops, you know, for the program. And I feel like I'm normally like pretty like, okay, I'm fine, you know, talking to people, I'm used to it. And I feel like sometimes people see communications as an easier major because we're not doing tests and all this stuff. But I'm like, if you do not like presenting, you will not like this. And if you don't like reading or writing, you will not like this major, because HCOM, we would write. Like, we didn't have exams. We had like 15, 20-page papers. And so now that's why I feel like, oh, it's easier for me, you know, to communicate through emails with my students. I create newsletters every month for them, and it's something I enjoy. You're also able to be creative, you know. For our capstone with HCOM, you have that option of like, oh, do you want to do a podcast, a video, you know, you can be creative. And that's what I really love about the major too. It's like all of these skills that you learn, like you can use that. Like, it's not just tied down to one specific job. Like Lamberto was saying, you know, it's like, we're not just like one title. It's like, we can do it all. And I know sometimes they're like, oh, it's too broad. And I'm like, no, it's actually really great, you know, because you can work in education, you can go work in the media if that's something you really like, you know, marketing, PR, whatever it is. I just
Carla,
think oh, sorry. I'm like, I just think it's a really great major.
Can you explain what a capstone is?
Yeah, so capstone is basically like the culmination of your time at CSUMB. So you take this course either your last year or like last semester, depending on when you fit it into your schedule, and you can pick the different topics for the capstone. But basically you work on this huge project. Obviously during COVID it looked a little bit different, but normally I know they would do a whole festival, your family would come, and you would present this project that you worked on the whole time. So yeah, I mean, during COVID we had to do it online, but it was still I thought in the beginning, I was like, oh, I have this in the bag, you know. I'm like, I know my topic, I have everything set for it. No, it was still difficult, but at the end, like when I looked back at it, I remember submitting it and calling my mom and crying, and I was like, I'm done. Like, I was like, I'm done with school, because that was the last class I had to worry about. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, I did 24 pages, like what? And it's cool because you also get to do like an acknowledgements. So obviously everyone, if you read theirs, they normally acknowledge like their parents or their family, their friends. So it's a really great way for you to see how much you progress like your whole time at the university.
Carla, I mean, I have to say, like, you graduated, and then I was like, hey, Carla, want to work at Cabrillo? And then like pushed off the deep end, because it was like like literally an office that didn't exist, a program that was just an idea, right? And you came in and helped with, you know, with a team that helped guide you along, but create a program completely from scratch, including like, here's a contact list, you know, go out and call students that dropped during COVID and see if they'll come back, encourage them that we'll be here to support them, right? And you've designed all these workshops and all these incredible supports. And then also created a whole like social media presence. Cabrillo's now on TikTok because we got Carla, like just all kinds of incredible things. And so you've just really been putting all of your skills to use.
Yeah, I love to say, you know, I'm like, you know, I'm very on social media with the program. I'm like, I'm really using my HCOM degree, you know, like I'm using that communications, you know, marketing, all of that, because that's something I do love as well. So I do enjoy that I'm able to do that at my job as well.
Are there questions for Carla? Comments?
Carla's inspiring and she rocks. Yeah.
Definitely. What about Mandy and Mohammed? You guys are like our student representatives here. Are there any questions from current students? Well, I know we have, I think this is kind of our time for like just open conversation and Q&A, but do we want to have Stephanie talk any more about the TSSC or anything?
Yeah, I totally can if you would like. Yeah, honestly, the TSSC has been open for only a few years. 2019 was the first semester it opened, and I transferred in fall 2019, so I wasn't really aware of it until like I think right before pandemic hit. I remember there was a paint and nacho night. I was excited. I was finally gonna go to an event, and I was like, okay, this one's really nice. I like painting, there's gonna be nachos. And then like the morning of, they're like, due to the circumstances, we're canceling. And that I've never been in the whole like office that we have, the building, but we do have like a brand new refrigerator. We have locks, lockers. Like if you commute and you don't want to carry something around all day, you can put things in the lockers, which is super nice. And just the space itself, it's going to be really great once we get opening. I'm so sad I'm graduating. I'm not even going to be able to go and see it, but I will visit it. But I don't care. I'm going to go see it. And yeah, we just do peer mentorship. We really encourage students and new and incoming students to get into our peer mentor program, because we're just really here to help and guide students their first year and even their second year, just to check up and say like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And your first semester, yeah, it's a little bit scary because it's like whole new school, new program, new, different things to figure out. Like Oasis is like our main thing that we talk about, where you pay your tuition and you find out your financial aid. So we help navigate through that. And honestly, just having someone to go and vent to, and like, okay, like, my classes are hard. Like, how can I have a better time of, maintaining my time management and learning how to use a Google Calendar that we all really plug. Google Calendar has saved my life so many times. And just setting up these appointments with, your peer mentor and talking to somebody who has been a first semester transfer already, and just getting, more information about, different things. And even there's employment through this. I had a peer mentee, and I thought she was a really great fit to, become a peer mentor. So I was like, hey, you should apply. And then she did the interview, and Jacinto, our boss, also, agreed that she'd be pretty good as a peer mentor, and she has a job now there. And then now she's a mentor, and now she sees people who, could possibly become a new mentor. So it's a full cycle, and it's really great, just getting plugged in and getting your connection into, CSUMB. And it really helps, you have a friend your first day, you have someone you can talk to and, just get support from. So using the tools that TSSC gives. I know my first semester, we had like a tutor that was they were just sitting at the transfer center waiting for people to come. It was about research, and I remember taking one of my pro seminar classes. So it's pre-capstone pretty much that Carla was talking about. They're kind of helping you get set up. And so they're helping you learn to research. And yeah, somebody from the research, she was like a research tutor, and she was there, and I was like, hey, can you help me? And it was just like, there was no waiting. There was like, just walk in, and if you go to the tutoring center on campus, you might have to set an appointment up, wait for a few days. But I got to just walk in and say, hey, I need help. And she had specific days she was there, and it was really nice. And I hope that they do that starting next semester when we open up again. But yeah, there's so much, there's just a lot, and we just really want to help transfer students feel comfortable their first year. And that's something we really aim to do, because it's hard. It could be hard, but just being plugged in, you get a lot more comfortable.
I did also want to mention and plug them, there is a podcast that we created last semester, and it's really great because you get to hear everyone's like individual transfer stories. So you can also relate to the peer mentors in that way too.
Nice. One thing I noticed, kind of actually both Stephanie and Carla mentioned, is like the power of like how powerful it is to work at your college. Carla, you mentioned that as being something that really hooked you in at Cabrillo, and also at CSUMB, and Stephanie, you mentioned that too. We think about, typically it's kind of, you think, oh, being involved means like doing a student club or some kind of student activity, but student employment is also, it's a really powerful way to get involved at your college, and you get paid to do it. So at Cabrillo, just all the Cabrillo students that are listening, we have lots and lots of jobs available for students, and you can check out our student employment webpage, because we're kind of always hungry for students in all the different areas. Carla worked for the Office of Student Equity. She worked for the Outreach Office. You worked for, I think you said Extension. Those are like 3 different offices. So just want to put it out there that that's a really powerful way to get a good job, build your resume, and it also helps you be more successful in your classes. And research also shows that it's not just like anecdotally people saying, oh, I really like working on campus. Like, it actually shows that students get better grades and they pass their classes and they get to their educational goal faster when they actually work for their college. So I think we're coming up to the end of our hour. Are there any last comments from our group?
I did also want to say that working on campus, like, your boss normally will understand the fact that you're a student. Literally, when you sign the contract, it's like you're a student first, so make sure to take that into account. That's like the only time where I've had, a boss be like, take a mental health day, because other jobs I've had, they've never done that. And also, I don't think I would be working in education or higher ed if I hadn't worked on campus, to be honest. I just ended up loving it so much. So you never know, maybe your career path, is in higher ed too.
I think I saw in the chat that Mateo has a question.
Yeah, he gonna tell you. Mateo? Yeah. What is the question?
I just want to know, because I have another major and I am maybe interested by like changing and be into communication study. So I just want to know if it's like it's easy or difficult to change my major, like in communication study.
And this is your first semester at Cabrillo?
This is my second semester at Cabrillo.
Second semester.
Mateo, it's easy to change your, technically it's easy to change your major, and what you should do is schedule an appointment with the Cabrillo counselor. So you can go to the webpage and schedule an appointment and let them know that you want to work on a new ed plan to change your major, and our counselors are awesome, and they'll work with you to change your major, look at the classes you already took, and get out a good plan for you, and also talk about like where your plans are for transfer. Because if you're going to transfer to CSUMB, for example, there's one kind of ed plan that they'll fix up for you. And then if you want to transfer to like UCLA, that would kind of have a slightly different set of classes. So the best way to be on track to your goal is to meet with a counselor.
Okay, I think I'm gonna talk to my counselor and I will see. But thank you for your advice.
And And I also know at CSUMB, when international students change their major, they have to communicate with the International Programs Office to just let them know.
Okay.
And I think your counselor is probably Motoko for your international counselor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she'll be great and help. And she's also our international program. So communicating with her will help you just make sure you're doing all your stuff. And it's very common for students to change their major, especially as they take classes and find out what it is that they really lights them on fire and what they're interested in. So they're really used to helping students change their majors.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
I just wanted to add to, like, as you're taking, like for the Cabrillo students, as you're taking classes, if you realize like, oh, I think I like this class, like maybe I want to continue, like you can always ask your professor, your instructor, whoever, like a little bit more about the class and kind of get an idea of what do you do with that major and what does that look like and what does that, pathway look like with transferring and all that stuff. So if you're ever in a class and you're like, oh, I really like this, like don't hesitate to reach out to your teachers because they can be a good resource to help you figure out what major might be the best fit for you. I know I switched multiple times and it took me a while, so it takes a lot of students a while, I think, and that's totally okay.
Good. All righty. Well, thank you, everyone. It has been a wonderful hour, and I learned a lot about communication studies and HCOM and learned even more about our superstar, Carla. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.